A high-level conference on unclaimed benefits is taking place in Sandton, Johannesburg. Let's get more on this conference and what's taking place with our guest. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Just explain what unclaimed benefits are and the extent of them in SADC is.
Thank you for having us on your program. The unclaimed benefits in SADC is quite a lot of money. It ranges to almost 4 to 5 billion, and it's held by over 1,000 financial schemes, from trusts to provident fund schemes and pension fund schemes, and largely this money belongs to mine workers and workers in the steel industry.
All right, Martin Muswe, what instruments and measures are there to track what's happening with those benefits?
At a regional level, at a SADC level, there is an instrument that is there, but it has not yet been adopted. But this instrument is the SADC protocol on employment and migration. And I think this instrument seeks to ensure that migrant mine workers are able to enjoy the benefits that accrue to them while they are employed in South African mines. So you will understand that migrant mine workers who come to South Africa also accrue some benefits by virtue of them working in South African mines. So these benefits would range from provident funds, pension fund schemes, and UIF, and all the other deductions that the employer would make on their salaries. So the issue is that when migrant mine workers largely move back to their sending countries, them and their families are not able to access these benefits. And I think that's largely what the meeting and I think aims to sort of move towards a place where there is an adoption of a regional policy and protocol on what should happen, and also lead to the adoption of bilateral agreements between labor sending countries and the South African government.
Mm-hmm. What legislation and policies across the region are there to guide what happens when it comes to unclaimed benefits? At this
point, there's really no policy on what should happen to benefits that lie with pension fund schemes and provident fund schemes in South Africa that are unclaimed. So generally, what would happen is that the trust that hold the trust or the provident fund schemes that hold the monies would then invest these monies until the beneficiaries come forward to claim them. So at a regional level, there is no policy to say what should happen to these monies. What happens to these monies is guided by South African legislation. So so I think that, yeah.
So can you explain to me if there's an expiry date for these benefits and what is done to find the people who are due monies to them?
So largely there is no expiry date for claiming these monies, but eventually most of the beneficiaries pass on without claiming these monies, and their families also continuously struggle to claim these monies until ultimately there's no claimant who can come forward, because most of the family members have now passed on, and the money largely remains unclaimed for years. And I think I think the meeting also seeks to also speak to that same issue of ensuring that there is a concerted effort to trace beneficiaries and ensure that claimants are able to know about these monies for starters, and also the geographical barriers that are there are sort of minimized, and we find new innovative ways to reach out to claimants and beneficiaries, and also ensure that once we reach out to them, we are able to assist them in ensuring that they have the right documentation and all the procedures that are required. They are assisted throughout the claiming process.
Yeah, it's very tragic when you describe how people work in obviously very difficult situations, using their bodies, being depleted, passing away with no benefits and their families still struggling and not earning the rightful rewards of their work. I know that there's this high-level conference taking place now. Just tell me more about it and how, as a high-level conference, it doesn't just devolve into a talk shop and the people who matter in this instance don't get left behind and don't continue to suffer when they could be getting assistance.
Yes. I think the meeting actually began with two Ms. Simelane and Ms. Maseko from Eswatini. These are two widows who have struggled for over 30 years now to claim monies that were that are due to their husbands. And I think, as you rightfully put it, it's quite tragic and quite disheartening. Ms. Maseko alluded to us earlier that. When her husband passed on, her firstborn child was 1 at the time, and the child is now 32 years of age, and she still has not received the funds that were due to her husband. And I think these are some of the issues that we would like. These stories are some of the stories that we would like to bring forward and bring the plight of so many widows and families that are struggling to access these monies, and also the plight of ex-minors who largely came from rural areas and do not have access to such platforms to engage with the relevant stakeholders. So the high-level meeting brings a wide range of stakeholders from the private sector, the public sector, the financial services sector, mine workers and civil society and academics that are engaged in this work, to ensure that we're able to come up with concrete solutions that will address these issues of unclaimed benefits, and to see how we can make progress. And I think also how we can sustain the momentum of putting this issue in the agenda, because largely what we've seen is that the issue is spoken about periodically, and then the other issues that are also compelling, that are competing with this interest, that then take center stage. So we're trying to say, let's have a concerted focus on this issue and ensure that throughout this process we are learning and we are ensuring that workers are paid. Because, for example, we have heard from someone who gave a comparative experience of what happens in Canada to resolve this issue. So at the heart of this issue, then it's also administrative. There is people who wait quite a long time to get letters of authority from the master's office. And in Canada, what they have done to address a backlog from the master's office is that they would hire law students, final year law students, and penultimate law students to work at the master's offices to ensure that the backlog in issuing out the letter of authority, which is quite an integral part in any claiming process, because you would need widows and families normally would need that to put in the claims. And I think the backlog that is in the master's office, these are some of the ways that we hope that would come out of this issue, and that the Department of Justice would be able to take up to address the issue of the backlog there that is also creating problems for claimants, and would be able to sort of take something as this initiative and take it forward. And we see it as an opportunity to also address the unemployment crisis in South Africa, to employ young people and employ young people to be able to assist these institutions that have a lot of backlog and are not able to process claims and are not able to process claims. So we see students being used through holidays, working with these institutions to aid the backlogs in these institutions, and to help also reach claims.
Martin Mosweu, who's the Program Officer at Southern Africa Resource Watch, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Just speaking about unclaimed benefits and that conference that's taking place in Sandton.